Welcome to the SoundWorks Collection podcast. I'm Michael Coleman. I'm so excited to have today a special guest. And I say that because those of you who are familiar with Fred Armisen might be familiar with his comedic work. He's a musician, he's an author. And today we're going to be talking about his new album, 100 Sound Effects, through Drag City. So welcome, Fred Armisen.
Thanks for having me.
When I found out about your album, I saw the little interview you were doing on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Fred Armisen is releasing an album of 100 sound effects. Yes, you read that right. And I'm glad they added that part.
Yes.
Because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's real.
So it's real. It's a vinyl album of 100 sound effects. Do you care to explain yourself?
I gotta say, the reactions have been, people really know what it is. So if I say, oh, I really miss those sound effects albums, for some reason, which is what's surprising to me, is that people go, oh, of course I know those. I used to have this one, I had this collection, and I really like that. I just feel like it wasn't as alien as I thought it was going to be.
I'm always curious, when I talk with non-sound people about sound things, I'm like, how long do we have until they start to glaze over and kind of turn off? There's a threshold, you can, but I think that's been the fun aspect of what you've been doing the past few years. I think of even your stand-up for drummers comedy special, the feedback I got from people I was reading was oh, you don't have to be a drummer to enjoy something that feels like it's only for drummers.
Yeah, that's kind of that's a nice surprise of the whole thing. And same thing with sound effects. It's people, I feel like people really, I don't know what it is, but they know a lot more about stuff in general. It goes for music, drum equipment and stuff. People know it. I don't know what it is.
You've mentioned that, you're inspired by these Halloween sound effects. And when you said that, I was I'm pretty sure I have it. I'm like this one.
That looks really familiar. I think
this is the Disney one, but I was wait, is that everyone's point of contact with sound effects? Was it something like that for you?
Yes, but I think that I have a suspicion that those are used a lot because of haunted house experiences. If you go to a makeshift haunted house or whatever. So I think they're put to use a lot more. But I had this other record, which was a 45 of G.I. Joe. And it's some actor playing G.I. Joe, going through adventures, but it was heavy on the sound effects. So it was a lot of I've got to crawl out of this Jeep. And then you'd hear all these sounds that were so clear. There was they put so much work into it that's my first memory of what even though it wasn't billed as a sound effects record, to me it kind of was more than anything else. Or a snake. I think there was a python in it or something.
I think that was the thing about growing up with vinyl records of our audiobooks. For me, I had cassettes growing up of these audio stories, and there would always be sound effects, and they would always capture your imagination. Those were, always. I was also thinking back just the lineage or just the history of, I was going through just some stuff that I was remembering, Monty Python, National Lampoon, and then even more recently, Jerky Boys and even Adam Sandler's They're All Gonna Laugh at You album. Listening to comedy and stories and sound effects through audio, it's just a unique experience. It's not something that I think it's so singular is what my experience was.
And it also I think really paints a picture. I think it's almost it's underestimated. Especially for me with travel. So when I go to a foreign country, my memory of it, even though people might talk about how certain food smells or whatever, I really, for me, as soon as you land in Europe, I think it's an auditory experience more than anything. Hearing the scooters, and I went to earlier this year, last year, I went to Istanbul, Turkey. I did a stand-up show there. And the sound of taxis, there's a lot of busy, it was just all these taxis. And that to me, that's what really defined it for me.
what was the timeline for this project? Like, when was the first idea, and then what was the evolution of starting to think about? Because I saw that you went into some studios in LA, and there was kind of your own kind of recording experience that you had with this.
Well, when I decided to do it, the most important thing was I didn't want it to be just a homemade whatever. So I needed to book time at a studio just to keep it, official. It gives me like a real timeline. If I'm just collecting sounds on my phone, I feel like it would never come out, is what the problem is. So I thought it was better to really find a good studio. And I went through a friend of mine, Steve Albini, this recording engineer in Chicago. And I wanted to record with him, but he lives in Chicago. I live in LA. So I was like, where can I go here? He knows studios. And this is like a name drop, bonanza, but he got in touch with Dave Grohl, who then got in touch with Daryl Thorpe, this producer. And I recorded it at the Foo Fighters studio. And we just started there. And so that by having, of all things also, by having to pay a bill, meaning like to book studio time is like real money. That's what made me do a better job of it. Of like, all right, let me really not waste anybody's time. Let me really record these sounds and approach it like I want these to be usable.
To you, is this a concept album? Is this a sound effects album? Is this a comedy album? Is it everything? Or do labels, genres not really matter to you when you went into this?
No, my hope is that it's like a library record, that it's something that you can access, that it's used that way. But it's also just like a fun record release, like where instead of me, hoping that I wrote the right kind of song, which people are great at, but I mean, like for me, I thought like this might be like in the middle of all of that. Like it might be nice to have a sound effects record. Also, like I'm so appreciative of people who recorded sounds, sort of in the 1920s when people go out to Appalachia, and they would record all that music and everything. It feels like, they didn't know what the returns were going to be. They were like, let's just do this. I actually do have an appreciation for anyone who's recorded any sound from the 30s or 20s or however far back that goes, just as a record. So like maybe in 100 years, and I know there's plenty of content out there and but still, I hope that someone appreciates that there is a nice isolated recording of a bottle breaking in 2025, that this is what a bottle sounded like. And to us, it might seem meaningless, but I wish there was more of that.
I was just looking at the track list and I was like, okay, 100 sound effects. Where do you put your time and energy in? And I think looking at the track list, to me, it speaks obviously to a lot of who you are and your interests and kind of the worlds that you kind of come in and out of. And, I really appreciated the music store. I mean, the music store theme ones to me were like, it's like when you get around, have a drink with some musician friends or engineer friends, and you all dig in and you all have you've had those experiences. I mean, when I saw the one music store exit with security checking receipt, I was like, oh.
Well, I mean, what's funny is it comes up a lot.
Yeah.
If you talk to musicians, it always, for some reason, Guitar Center comes up. Everyone kind of goes, oh, then I had to go to Guitar Center. But everyone goes to Guitar Center. Everybody. And it seems to, oh my God, this sounds like an ad. It seems to be where you find stuff too. Like I was looking for this pedal. They had it. So then the joke is always like, oh, and then someone's practicing guitar. So I thought, well, why not build it? So I did that one in the studio. I really did have to edit how I played because it can't sound like me playing every instrument in the way that I play. I had to sound like a lefty guitar player or a drummer who's just learning, and just built it up from there.
Yeah, at first I was like, is he doing like some Keith Richards like inspired riffs or something? Like
It's someone copying the blues.
okay.
So
That's the
people know
backstory.
their blues scale, so they're just copying it, whoever that person is.
And that's what I appreciated about the track listing, because like top to bottom, okay, there's a few that I pulled out which to me really were, I think, some of my favorites. From the very top, Needle on Record.
Yeah.
I think for a sound effects album, a needle on the record feels like the most meta thing possible. But how did you even arrive at this idea of putting a needle on the record as your first sound?
It was not my idea. It was Bill Hader's idea. I told him about the album. I was like, hey, I'm doing this album. And right away he's like, oh, you should start it with a needle on a record sound effect. And it's such a good idea that I was mad at myself. I was like, how did I not think of that? How did I not come up with that? And that's, for anyone out there who ever wants to record something like that, not easy to do. Because I think the common thing is people, whenever you hear fake needle on a record, it's always scratchy. It's always some record that they found, with that's like all dusty, and that's not the case. People take care of their records. So I wanted it to sound clean. And just for anyone out there who wants to do the same thing, I didn't do the beginning of the vinyl record. It's the end. It's the run out groove. So it kind of goes for a little longer. It's like has more purpose to it.
I mean, I was waiting at the anticipation, and then you hear it, you're like, yep.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned, the electronic drum kit with headphones at a music store. Trying out a distortion pedal. You just mentioned the keyboard is not working, or keyboard not working at first at a music store.
Yeah. Excuse me, I don't think this is working. Is this on? Ah, there we go.
Okay, there's the sound effect, but then there's the dialogue. So is that just improv, or is that how do you come about coming up with some of that dialogue?
No, I mean, I kind of in my own way scripted it so that it's just me talking, so I can easily come up with words for that kind of thing. But the idea is, if you're shooting a scene that takes place at a music store, that's something you hear in the background. It's almost like, in the distance of that kind of thing going on. But there are a few of those that I did that just to make the album at least a little, there's at least some variation. So it's not just, a drum being hit. Like, at least there's like some extra stuff. And the electronic drums that aren't plugged in, or you only going through headphones, oh my God, you hear it all the time.
Right.
All the time. Like, it's just like you walk into the drum section, there might be like 4 kids playing a kit at the same time, and they're not buying that kit.
Yeah. So, I mean, with 100 with 100 tracks in this album, how do you edit? How do you decide which ones make the cut?
When there were some that sounded too jokey, and it makes it unusable. There was like too much personality in some of them, where I was like,
what would be too jokey?
There's one I did that was tuning a guitar, but when you strum it, it's still out of tune, which happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And it ended, I had this ending where I go, damn it. And it became unusable. It's like this, all of a sudden it's like, it was like a little mini sketch that, it was too complete. And so I just cut off the ending. So you just hear the guitar out of tune and then it's done. Anything like that. Like, I mean, I like it when people are talking and when there's like, but when it becomes too performative, that's what that one felt like. And then there were some that sounded terrible. There were some that had noise over them. The breaking of bottles one is really hard to do.
Oh, don't worry about it. Those are cheap.
oh my God, I'm talking like this is like.
Well, you found a place, right, in LA?
I found a place in the valley where you could pay to go smash plates and glasses and stuff. But some of it was unusable because I heard the fan or other people or it didn't sound like glass breaking. Sometimes it just sounded like pebbles falling on concrete. So only in my, in my eyes, I'm like, that's a bottle breaking. But then I'm like, that doesn't sound like anything. So there was a bunch of those, a lot of that kind of thing.
The category is a small theater of this, small theater microphone isn't working, the audience talking and ignoring the shush, the audience acknowledging shush. So like the evolution of the sound effect, I think, is like a really fun theme that you kind of, throughout the album you're pursuing.
I love audience ones. Like I love on other sound effects records, booing. Boo. But there's like different kinds of booing. There's like what I call fake booing. And action. Boo. Cut. That was great, you guys. So if a director is talking to the extras, to the background, and saying, "Come on, everyone, this is where you're booing," it always sounds fake. So I tried to do one that was like fake booing, meaning like bad acting. Because I don't think people in real life boo at that tone.
Not like that. Not like the sound effect would probably be.
Yeah. So I did that one, and then I did supportive booing, which is like when someone's making a speech and they talk about whatever, the competition, and everyone goes in a playful way, like, boo,
I don't think I've experienced a sound effects library that kind of took into considerations that I think it's just like there's like additional context and like more backstory, I feel like, to some of these sound effects. I'm like, what was on the head of that and what was on the tail of that? And which is why I was wondering, how you decided how much commentary you would put around those sometimes.
I feel like it was one of those things that I was like, these are missing. We don't have these sound effects. So supportive boo, I was like, I don't think I've heard that. So like, there should be at least one. And I always think that those are usable. Like, you've got a scene where someone's making a speech and then, there's that version of it. And also, don't you ever wonder, by the way, about places like that, places that, let's just say that we don't know. Yeah. They must have a film or television department who also have to deal with like sound, microphones. It's just funny that there's some Foley artist out there somewhere.
Everyone is trying to tell their stories. Everyone's, different languages and different cultural, nuance. Like you said, when you're traveling abroad, you hear the sirens. You can tell this doesn't feel like here. It feels like here, which is why it was so fun to look at the specific things that you dug into. I mean, the outdoor. When I think of outdoors, I think of ambiences, birds, waves, thunder. But you went, let's do a campfire conversation. Let's do a tent zipper, sleeping bags. What inspired those outdoor categories?
I'm actually not a fan of the outdoors. Like, I don't like camping or any of those things. Some people are built for it, and I don't think I am. But my memory of it is always the sound of zippers. You're with your friends, so you do kind of just do small talk.
I'm still mad that they made us both show ID, and then there's another gate. That must have been 50 feet past that one, and then show ID again.
There should just be one entry point, and that's
wild.
You show it there. And we had the reservation. We had the thing on the phone.
Yeah, they've seen me before too. That's the other thing. And I'm like, you've seen me. They should have a system where they communicate with each other. I wanted to say something, and I wanted to get here.
Like the reservation system is completely separate from the whole security thing.
Yeah, well, they should have it sorted out.
And also, like, as I was making the album, it was missing. The outdoors was missing. There was a lot of indoor stuff. So I was like, we need something kind of I was talking to myself. But like, I felt like I needed something. There's, I wish I'd taken it further. Like, I do wish that I had a way to make a sports crowd or a sports event or, tennis in different countries. But that's for another time. Hopefully I'll do another one.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, this very clearly says Volume 1. So
yeah. Well, that was more
is that in the tradition of
yeah,
sound
yeah,
effects?
yeah. And
Okay.
like there's they always look like that, like Volume 1, and yeah. So I just really wanted it to look like something you'd find at a library.
I was trying to remember back what it was, and there was this authentic sound effects. There were these 13 albums that was Electro Records.
Yes, someone has told me about this.
Yes, and so I went back and I was like, wait, when did this start? Because like you look on the back cover and it says like there's an intended use if you want to use these for commercial purposes, like that's what these are here for. And it's like there was a time and place, obviously before computers, when vinyl sound effects records, the tradition of these were that you would use them for these types of purposes.
Yeah.
So what did you imagine, because you are releasing this both on vinyl and probably digital formats? What is that experience like for you then, to put out vinyl, to put out an album? Like how is that different for you than the other art forms that you work in?
Well, I mean, I love records, and I love my record collection, and I love record stores. So when you put your records away, you've got your pop section or a rock section, or I feel like country and jazz kind of go in their own sections. But then there's this little thing of like 5 albums where you're like, I guess I'll put this Vincent Price one or whatever. There's like these, and I'm like, yeah, come on, let's feed that part of your record collection. Let's make that one a little more substantial.
So I mean, one of the other categories here towards the back half of the record is this well-reviewed movie.
Yes.
And then there's subcategories. So
yeah.
How did you come up with a well-reviewed movie, and then the ones that fall hand washing, farm work, cutting root vegetables on wood board?
Well, just because like well-reviewed movies, their sound design of household chores is too loud. Any cooking, any cleaning or farm work, and people, chopping anything, bushels of wheat, whatever it is.
Like high society? Like
no, farm, like low, no, low society.
Low society, okay.
Oh yeah, picture, a poverty-stricken, like a real cabin.
Okay.
And because I feel like they turn up the volume to show like this is real work.
Uh-huh.
So
that was the framework that you
yeah. Anytime there's like I feel like well-reviewed movies take place in like 1900, and the lighting's dim, and then they're washing clothes by hand. Or there's farm work and you can't even see what's happening. It's like so early. That was what that is. I was just like, I did washing clothes by hand, a couple of other ones. And then there's one of the last ones on there is an important movie.
Important film, right?
Yeah. So whenever someone says to you like, well, this is like, you're supposed to have seen this movie. It takes place in Italy and it's in the 50s. And the sound quality is like that high-pitched Italian person, speaking to the town. Someone's saying something loud to the town down the street. And then you hear like church bells or like actual cowbells, like cows with their bells hanging.
Ehi, ascoltate tutti, sono arrivati! Sono arrivati ragazzi, dobbiamo andare! Andiamo tutti in piazza, adesso, tutti in piazza! Chiudete le finestre, chiudete tutte le porte! Di corsa, di corsa!
Out of 100 tracks, so I was asking, how do you determine what goes on the album? And the ones that you've picked out to me, I'm like, I think it's a complete the complete volume 1 is complete. Like I can't imagine that there would be more volumes that you'd want to explore. But now that you're kind of coming out and cracking this sound effects kind of genre, does that change how you kind of operate in the world? I mean, do you carry a recorder around with you? I mean, your phone?
No, I mean, like, for some of those tracks, I did have to use one of those Zoom recorders. Not Zoom as in meetings, but like everyone knows what these are. There were some that I had to get as ambient noise. So I needed the sound of wind or water. So a couple of those I did have to take around with me. But I actually don't use my phone for recording. Meaning, it would fill up my phone too much. If I did like, this is the sound of, a scooter in England. It's just, it would be too many. So I just kept it. I really separated this project from everything else. I actually had a green bag that I kept. I don't know why I described the color of it, but it's just what came to me. And the bag had a Zoom recorder, my notebook. I really had to take all these notes of like, what it's supposed to be, which takes didn't work. And then like batteries and all that stuff. Like I really kept there was like a bag. This is like, okay, this is my travel bag of recording.
So when did you start recording and when did you get into editorial?
I started recording in 2024 and finished, I think, in early 2025. So I did it. Most of it was LA. Then I had to work in Ireland for a while, and then I recorded there. And then a few more pieces here in LA in different studios. And in the middle of it, my friend, Steve Albini, died. And so I didn't want it to be that way, that like that was one of our last exchanges of how, he was excited to get help out. And and it was when I was in Ireland. So it became kind of like his spirit really pushed it on. And I don't mean that in like, I'm not trying to sound, and I just meant very literally the action of like, oh, I'm going to finish this thing was with him in mind of like, I'm going to finish this task.
Did the title of 100 Sound Effects, did you have that from the beginning or is that after?
It's somewhere, it just, as I was doing it, it just became that, and there's actually 101.
The Easter egg there is.
Yeah.
There's Fred walking to control room, which I feel like is the best. It's not an Easter egg, is it?
It's not an Easter egg, but
okay.
and this is a real name drop as well, but I was telling Steve Martin about it. That's my last name drop. And I said, hey, I'm doing this album of 100 sound effects. And he was just like, it would be funny if there was actually 101. So.
There'd always be a hidden track. Like on a CD, you would just let it keep playing and it would just naturally find its way there. And in the case of like the digital world, like I feel like sometimes those Easter eggs don't always happen. So I saw Fred walking to control room, like kind of like with the bookends of needle drop, and the needle record and control room.
Have you did you ever get the gigantic box set of John Lennon Mind Games?
No. Why?
There's an Easter egg in there that I had to do so much research to find. There's a track on the CD, I think on the Blu-ray, where you have to like go to the last track and then rewind. There's like this thing you have to do that is really fun, but it was like it really felt like an Easter egg. I had to look it up online. I was like, how do I find that track? It's something like you keep fast forwarding and then I can't remember, but it was something.
Obviously, you did your special in 2018, the Stand Up for Drummers, and now you're taking on tour, this comedy for musicians, but everyone is welcome.
Yeah.
How does this album show up on tour? Does it show up on tour?
There is one track that I do live, and it's sort of, that one worked its way backwards because There's one that I do, which is the farm work. It's the washing clothes by hand in a bowl. And I did it as a sort of, whatever you want to call it, stand-up joke or something, where I've got a microphone in the bowl and I make that, I say that a lot of those sounds are too loud in those movies. And then it made its way onto the album. I was like, oh, that would make sense for it to be in there.
My hope is that the sound community takes this library of sound effects that you've now are giving to the world and starts to use them in their projects. I think that would be the best thing that could come out of this is they start showing up in unexpected places. And
that would be amazing. That's like the hope of it, and then it's used at a volume also that's like appropriate. Like, oh, that totally works there. A lot of it's designed to be in harmony with whatever else is going on in a scene.
Well, Fred, I really am excited to have the world have a chance to check out this album. It's Fred Armisen, 100 Sound Effects, coming out through Drag City. It's coming out here very soon in September. The one last thing I wanted to do for an Easter egg, I think about this, and I never do it, but I wanted to ask you, which was, I think of voice messages as their own type of sound effects.
I absolutely agree. And they're changing. They're changing. So I don't know what you're thinking. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
But where in the 90s, you mean like when you leave a message for someone?
Totally, yeah.
There's a tone to it. There's like a rhythm to it. And now when people leave voice notes, there's it's really kind of conversational. Like when people do it, they're really natural. But in the 90s, I feel like they used to have endings. So in the 90s, it was like, anyway, as soon as you get in, give me a call when you get back. And now, I think with voice notes, people are just like, bloop, they're done. Well, what were you going to say? What was your observation?
No, I was just going to say, I feel like there needs to be a voice message album. Is what my ask is, or something.
No,
maybe there's a thread there.
This is what I think.
Yeah,
this album has to exist, but I don't think it should be recreated. I think it should be an actual library with permission, of messages left and also outgoing messages, and how that's evolved over time.
That would be pretty fun. So with that being said, Fred, would you give us your voice message for this, for the SoundWorks Collection?
Hello, please leave a message after the tone.
Hey, Mike, it's Fred. Looking forward to our conversation. It'll be fun. I have that apogee mic. Let me know if that's going to work or not. But either way, I'm sure we'll figure it out. So looking forward to it. Talk to you later. Bye.
Perfect. Thank you, Fred, for your time. Such a pleasure. Fred Armisen, 100 Sound Effects through Drag City. Go check it out. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Many thanks to our guests today, and if you'd like to listen to more conversations from the SoundWorks Collection, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on all major podcasting platforms, including the video version on YouTube. You can also find exclusive daily video clips on our Instagram and TikTok pages, and connect with other creatives around the world through our email industry mailing list at soundworkscollection.com. If you have a story or project that you want to propose for the show, please send us an email at info@soundworkscollection.com. And thanks again for listening.